Hi and welcome to Omni Edition Garden City. I'm Dan York. This week on the program, Bob Muery will be here. He's Garden City's acting city manager, as well as Garden City's chief of police. We're going to talk about the budget process that he and his administration are currently involved with the city administration, the mayor, and the city council. Budget workshops going on right now, and the process of setting up the budget for 2013 and 2014. And we also want to talk to him about his recognition as Administrator of the Year, as awarded by the Police Officers Association of Michigan. Also, Allyson Bettis will be here. She is Garden City's clerk treasurer, and we're going to talk about the filing deadlines for different positions, first off for the mayor and council for that November race, as well as for the newly created library board and the different rules for petitions between the mayor and council and the library board and the potential whether or not we can have a primary going into that November election. But before we get to that, our upfront segment here on Omni Edition Garden City, and it starts with the next Garden City City Council meeting. That next Garden City City Council meeting will be coming up on Monday, April 15th at 7 o'clock. Of course, you know the drill. You're welcome to come out and be a part of the meeting yourself that evening. You can watch it live right here on GCTV that night beginning at 7 o'clock, or you can watch it played back at 10, 2, 7, and 11 the following Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. Of course, you can also watch it on YouTube by going through the city's website, www.gardencitymi.org/GCTV. And also, I failed to mention, you can watch it streamed live that night on Monday, April 15th at 7 p.m., also through the city's website. Now, there will be a City Council budget workshop coming up on April 22nd. That will begin at 5:30 p.m. That meeting will be in the Police Department Community Room. There will be no television of that meeting. And again, that's April 22nd beginning at 5:30 in the Police Department Community Room, located in the Police Department right next door to Garden City City Hall. Even though the weather hasn't cooperated, compost has resumed in Garden City. Now, you put your compost out on your regular trash day, so if it's Thursday, you put it out the Wednesday night before and so on. You can put your compost in either 32-gallon plastic or metal cans with a yard waste recycling sticker pasted on those, or you can purchase those craft-type brown bags that are specifically designed for yard waste. But those are the only two containers, if you will, that you can place yard waste. And again, compost is currently going on in Garden City and will run through the fall. Now, the Garden City Downtown Development Authority is sponsoring the Great Garden City Cleanup coming up on Saturday, April 20th. And this is really designed to be a general spring wake-up, if you will. The DDA will have a large dumpster available at the farmers market to collect trash. You're encouraged to pick up trash in your neighborhood, even if it's at your own home, on the streets of Garden City, in any of the public areas. There will be trash bags available the week of April 15th at Garden City City Hall. They will also be available the 18th, 19th, and 20th at the DDA offices located on Ford Road, just east of Middlebelt Road. And on the 20th, they'll be there from about 9 in the morning until noon. But, get your Cub Scout pack together, or your Girl Scouts, or your community groups, your service clubs, your church groups, and just make a day of it. Again, it's kind of an informal sort of thing. This is their first attempt at it. And again, it's labeled the Great Garden City Cleanup, and that is on April 20th. Now, along with the spring comes GCYAA opening day for T-ball, baseball, and for softball. That will be at 1 o'clock at Moeller Field, and of course, we'll have that on a tape-delayed basis for you right here on GCTV. The introduction of all of the teams, the ceremonial first pitches for 2013 at 1 o'clock, that's Saturday, at Moeller Field. Before that, from 8 a.m. until noon, the GCYAA will hold their annual pancake breakfast. This will be at the Henry Ruff Center, which of course is located on Henry Ruff and Maplewood, with all proceeds from that breakfast going to the T-ball, baseball, and fast-pitch softball programs. Adults are $5, kids 5 and up are $3, and children under 5 only $1. So even though Mother Nature hasn't cooperated very much, it's time to start thinking spring in our community with Compost, the Great Garden City Cleanup, and the GCYAA opening day. So when we come back from this very quick break, Bob Muery will be here. Again, he is Garden City's acting city manager and the chief of police. We're going to talk about the budget and his recognition as Administrator of the Year. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Omni Edition Garden City. I'm Dan York, and as we promised up front, Allyson Bettis, Garden City's clerk treasurer, is with us. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We have local elections coming up in November.
We do.
But prior to that, there's a filing deadline for petitions, the potential for a primary, and we have a new office, if you will, that people could run for, which is the Garden City Library Board. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have, first of all, a brand new library board. We had a library board before, but now they are elected, and they are going to elect 6 directors. And for the very first election, we are going to have to stagger their 6-year terms.
Okay.
So 2 of the directors will get a 2-year term, 2 of the directors will get a 4-year term, and 2 of the directors will get a 6-year term.
Okay.
And then from all future elections, they'll just take turns getting the 6-year term.
But there will be an election for the library board every 2 years with 2 seats up.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what is the filing deadline for someone who's interested in filing either for mayor and council or for the library board?
Mayor and council and library board, the deadline is all the same. It's May 14th, and it's at 4 o'clock. And so I always warn people with my smile that if you come in at 4:05 and I've known you for 15 years and I love you to death, you are not going to be on that ballot.
Sure.
So you need to be on time, and you need to remember it's not our regular closing time. The state deadline is 4 o'clock.
Okay, so that is dictated by the state.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the petition filing is actually a different practice between the mayor and council and for the library board. Is that correct? And this is also mandated by the state?
Yes, the state gives guidelines for the library board, and our charter gives guidelines for mayor and council. So for mayor and council, as it has always been, you have to have 75 and no more than 125 signatures on your petition. They all have to be valid Garden City registered voters, and but still the same deadline. For the library board, our new positions, you have to have 40 to 80 signatures on your petition, or you have the option of simply paying a $100 filing fee
and having no signatures.
And having no signatures.
Okay, and I think it's 40 to 100, by the way, for the library.
Yes, you're right. Correct.
So,
thank you.
Okay, so same form.
You
filed it in the same place.
Yes.
Same deadline.
Yes.
But a different policy or rule or law that applies to it.
Yes, and if you can understand the state legislature, more power to you.
Now, our library board, the reason we're going to have an elected library board is because the people last year approved a library millage.
That is correct.
For the library of a half a mill, I believe.
No, it's a full mill.
Is it a whole mill? Okay. Mm-hmm. And with that, that is how they operate. But once they did that, then it became necessary by state law for them to have an elected library board.
Correct.
To oversee that money and the operations.
The state law says that a provisional board is appointed by the mayor first, and so he did that, and council confirmed those appointments. And then also now we're going into the election. It was just waiting for our regular election cycle.
Okay. And that nominating petition that you have in front of you right there.
I do.
One of the things that people need to realize is this area at the top has to be filled out before they begin to gather any signatures.
That is absolutely correct. The header, if you will, has to be completed in full, including the name of the position that you're running for. So you want to make sure that you have this part filled out completely before you begin to ask for signatures. And then the bottom part, which says who is circulating the petitions, if you have your children doing it for you, your neighbors doing it for you, your friends and family, you fill that out after. The dates are important, and you want to make sure that you're getting enough votes to cover the minimum for for being on the ballot.
Okay. If you have too many signatures, do you just discount all of the signatures beyond that cap number?
I've never, frankly, had too many, and I've always thought it was curious that they had a maximum.
Sure.
But I assume you just give back the petition that made it too much.
Okay. All right. Very good. So for the library board, even though it's terms of 6 years, 4 years, and 2 years, everyone is running together. You're not deciding to run for the 2-year term or the 4-year term or the 6-year term. Everyone is running together, and the order of finish will dictate the amount of years you get.
Exactly. That's basically the same way that it is for council. The higher vote getters get the 4-year term, and the lower vote getters get the 2-year term. So it's going to be, just for this first time, it's going to be that way for the library board. So they will run for the 6 positions, and then the highest vote getters win the most length of term.
And on the mayoral and council petitions, again, you have to specify whether you're running for mayor or whether you're running for city council.
You do, and this time, because we have a partial seat, the seat that was vacated by Councilmember Cordy, we have not only the mayor and council, but we also have a separate race for that one.
So that will be
position.
Separated.
Yes, and the petitions for that particular race should say council partial term.
Okay. And you'll obviously explain that to people when they pick up their forms.
Exactly. And if you have any questions, like always, it's very easy to call my office and ask either myself or Vicki Cochran, my office manager, and we'll guide you through it.
Okay. And with the mayor and council race also, and you mentioned that there's 4-year terms and 2-year terms, and maybe people don't always realize that 2 of the council people do not have to run in this election because they have 4-year terms from the past election.
That is correct. This time, because Mr. Cordy resigned his seat, it's only Councilmember Squires.
Okay. Normally there would be 2 people under regular circumstances that did not have to run for re-election.
Correct.
Okay. And your folks obviously dealing with the election in November. Now, there could be a primary also in August if enough people filed, both for the library board and for the mayor and council.
That is true, and so although the clerks of the world hope always that doesn't happen, if more than 3 people, if 3 or more people run for mayor, or if more than 8 people run for council, or more than 3 people, or 3 people or more run for the partial seat, or more than 12 people run for the library board seat.
Any of those things will trigger a primary, but only in those races.
Only in those races. So, for example, if we don't have that number of candidates for any race except library board, then library board would be the only thing on the primary.
And the mayor and council would not be on the primary ballot.
No.
Then. And that's August 6th.
Yep.
Okay, and that's whatever combination. All you need is 1 more than the minimum.
1 more than twice the number of positions available is how that is phrased.
Okay.
If I remember it sometimes.
And then the effort that you folks will put together into that primary and into the general election, this is a local election only? There are no state offices or federal offices or county offices coming up?
So far, so good. There's always an opportunity for referendums to come through, but so far we're getting close to the deadline and nothing but local elections. Are we down to now 4 dates per year that local elections can be held? Yes, we are February, May, August, and November.
Okay, and that was not really so much the problem here as it was in other places where they would have school board elections at odd times or that sort of stuff.
The fear was that they were calling elections when no one expected them, not advertising them very much, and therefore the voters weren't aware that there was something that needed to be voted on.
Sure.
And so the idea is to make sure that you consolidate that, and that every good clerk shouldn't be trying to make sure as many people vote in their election as possible.
Sure. The letters and the memos that spell out exactly what we spoke about here, minus my handwriting on them, are available on the city website at www.gardencitymi.org. And if folks want to call your office with any questions, who do they call?
They call the city clerk's office, which is 734-793-1620, and we're open Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5.
And those petitions are available right now for folks to pick up?
Right now.
Okay, very good. Well, I want to thank you very much for spending time with us, and I wish you good luck with your election season.
Always good spending time with you guys.
All right, take care. We'll be back with more Omni Edition Garden City right after you watch this.
This financial advisor is being accused of committing one of the largest investment frauds in the history of the United States.
I guess we're not going to Aspen. That's fine. You see, I like tennis balls. He likes insider trading. So he's going to jail and I'm going to a shelter. And no, they're not the same thing. Shelters are for good pets that want to be adopted. Jails are for criminals. I've done nothing. Uh-oh. Okay, I stole a cheeseburger once on my dog.
Welcome back to Omni Edition Garden City. I'm Dan York, and as we promised up front, Bob Muery is with us. He is the acting city manager as well as Garden City's chief of police. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Dan. A pleasure to be here.
So this is your first budget process as acting city manager. Obviously, you've been involved in the police department's budgets intimately for the last several years, but this is the first time that you have been the acting city manager during this process. Is that correct?
That's correct. So my responsibilities have expanded from shepherding the budget of one department to kind of overseeing the budget compilation from all
Sure.
the departments together.
Sure. And we'll get into some more detail beyond this, but not a huge difference from last year to this year as far as the budget goes. Is that correct?
That's correct. Actually, this year's budget will be a little over $200,000 less than last year's budget.
Okay. And prior to that, we had seen significant decreases in the budget as the property tax revenues to the city fell off well over the past 3 or 4 years.
Yes, just a few years ago, we had a $19 million budget, and we are now down in the $15 million plus area.
And that's significant because it wasn't a fat budget at that time.
That's correct. Some very painful decisions were made. We had to pare back the workforce. We, of course, went to the people for a public safety millage that they approved. The street lighting assessment was also a burden taken on by the citizens, and we changed the way we charge for garbage services. So the citizens certainly contributed greatly to our ability to deal with this budget crisis.
Going forward, again, in general terms, any thoughts or any layoffs possibly coming in this budget?
Well, we're truly are still in the infancy because it's important to remember this is City Council's budget. This is not the department head's budget. This is not the city manager's budget. This is the City Council's budget. So what decisions they may make remain to be seen. I will say that we did have a meeting this week, our first budget workshop with full council and all the department heads and some citizens, and it was a very positive meeting. We weren't able to get through everything. We'll have a second meeting on April 22nd at 5:30 at the police department. But at this particular meeting that we've had so far, it was a very positive meeting, and it looks like we will be able to, at a minimum, maintain services and possibly even pull off some improvements in a few areas.
Okay. Now, April 1st is the charter deadline for the city administration to present a proposed budget to council. Is that correct?
That's correct. The charter mandates that on or before April 1st, the city manager shall present to council a proposed budget. The process actually starts well before that, going back to November of the previous year, where we began having conversations among department heads about capital improvement projects. Those are generally major items, a lot of times dealing with infrastructure within the city that each of the department heads is facing. Each department head compiles a list. It's generally a 5-year plan. It is a 5-year plan. We submit that to council by December. That is, council receives and notes it at that time and really kind of sets it aside until we move on to the actual budget process. And now council has made it clear we're going to bring it all together. We're going to try and accomplish some of our capital improvement projects, which we haven't been able to do for several years. But that is, the capital improvement projects is step one. And then beginning in January, the department heads and the city manager, we all begin meeting and working on drafts, working on proposals, working on ideas. And we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, although council did not receive this until April 1st, the deadline. The department heads were well ahead of schedule, and now council is well ahead of schedule, hearing details so far.
Okay, let me jump back one quick bit, the capital improvement plan. Even though that we haven't been able to do much with it, and we might not be able to do much with it going forward, it's very important to identify these projects and what things need to be taken care of, at least so they don't become a surprise or a catastrophic situation going forward.
That's exactly right. We need to, there are things that we would like to have in our capital improvement project plan. Then there are things that we absolutely have to have. And that is part of the process of sorting out what we would like to have, what we absolutely have to have, and sometimes also a major expense that we project will occur about 5 years from now. We can decide whether we can start putting away a little portion of money toward that major purchase when the time comes, so that it doesn't suddenly hit the budget and have a detrimental impact.
Sure. So the actual 2013-2014 budget should take effect on July 1st. Is that correct?
That is the day, yes, prescribed by charter. Now, in the event that we were to fall into some heavy discussions and the budget were to need some heavy, serious revisions, charter does allow us to then continue to operate. Each month would be 1/12 of the previous fiscal year's budget.
Sure.
So it's not catastrophic. We don't close the doors. We don't stop delivering services, but we're limited to what that previous year's budget would be. It's been tight in years past. Sometimes we've run right up to June 29th, June 30th, and I believe historically we might have missed July 1st.
We have
once
had
or
to
twice.
carry over into that 1/12 allotment more than once, at least in the time that I've been here.
But right now, the communication between council and department heads, administration, the courts, the communication is outstanding. I do not anticipate that we will see any great roadblocks come up here.
Okay. Now, we still see a decrease in property tax revenue projected for the next year, but not as severe as has been the case in past years?
That's correct. This year it looks to be a 4.4% decrease, and that, forgive me for having to cheat and turn to my notes, but I have so many numbers running around in my head. That translates into about $318,000 to make up. And it's important to know also that that doesn't just affect property taxes. You know, any millage-based assessment, like the public safety millage, like the library, those will experience decreases as a result of this. So those are areas, of course the library has their own budget now and their own funding source, but in the other areas, those are things that we will have to make up somehow as we put the budget together.
Right, the Headley Amendment and Proposal A still ratchet these things down even after they're passed.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, we do have a projected budget surplus coming out of 2011 or 2012, 2013. So there is some money from which to work with.
Right, that's correct. Right now we're working with a total fund balance of about $2.7 million. 1.5 of that I think is directly attributable to last year. The very well contained spending, the end effect of some of the changes that had been made previously. So we do have that. That's a decent fund balance for us to work with. And then the proposed budget the council has before them now, we're asking to use about $900,000 of that fund balance to make up for some of the tax losses, to address some increases in spending, and to shore up some staffing issues in certain places.
And it was understood, even when the millage proposal was taken to the public, it was understood at that point that we would be a little fat on one side and a little lean on the other side, and that money would have to be carried forward during that 4-year period or 5-year period, whatever it is.
Right. I don't think the 3.5 millage was ever intended, and it certainly doesn't, it falls short of funding all of public safety. But it was intended to help us and to help us maintain status quo, at least, on the services that were being offered to the city.
Okay. And a couple of the increases for next year, one of those is in the retirement program that the city participates in?
Yes, we participate in a statewide system now called MERS, and our cost, the employer's cost, is increasing, I think, by about 15% across the board. Some areas it didn't go up, some areas it went up more, so I believe it averages about 15% across the board. And that was one we weren't expecting.
Okay.
It was more significant than we were anticipating. We've had repeated meetings with MERS in an attempt to get some kind of reduction, but that's simply not going to happen, so we'll have to deal with it.
Okay, and there are other things that will cause us to be in deficit, at least against what our tax income is for this upcoming year.
We do have some employees who have a contractual 2.5% raise that's due. These employees have pushed it off and pushed it off, but they're at a point now where they cannot push it off any further. It's simply with some of the rules that the governor laid into place, it's just impossible for them to push off the raise anymore.
Sure.
So that 2.5% will be coming down the pike, so that will be an increased cost. And of course, many of the things that we use in the daily course of our business have increases in expenses, and then we have to kind of plan on those also.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so the goal is to hold more public workshops on the budget and try to have this done as close to or as early as possible, obviously, but ahead of that July 1st deadline.
That's correct. The process right now, what is occurring is that department heads come in, a presentation is made to council, and council absorbs the information. We are more than halfway through that process now. So once we complete that, once council has absorbed the information and comes forth with other questions that they want answered, then council will begin their deliberations on just exactly how they want their budget to appear.
Okay, very good. Well, good luck with that. That's obviously a tough process to go through during some very trying times.
It is, and we're in some times now where it's very difficult to predict the future, and even some of the things that we're seeing. For instance, right now, it is my opinion that the real estate market in Garden City is rebounding. I'm seeing more activity. I'm hearing stories about houses that are on the market for a day. That's very exciting news. Unfortunately, we as a city won't feel the positive impact of that for 18 months to 2 years.
Sure.
So we have to continue to live within our means while trying to maintain a viable product that draws other people, new people into the community.
And the projections that we receive regarding our revenue that we should expect from property tax, those projections are done by the county?
They're actually, well, the county does do some, yes. I believe that our projections come from Wayne County Assessor, which is...
Oh, which is not actually a part of the county.
Correct. And they have been very accurate so far. So we kind of rely on those. Admittedly, we will occasionally build in a little, we'll make it a little more conservative because it's better that we're over-prepared for something than under-prepared for something.
Absolutely. Okay. I want to talk about a different subject. You were recently recognized as the Administrator of the Year by the Police Officers Association of Michigan. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I am very, very excited and very proud of this award.
And for folks who don't know, me included, explain exactly what this award is.
Well, the Police Officers Association of Michigan is the largest unified group of police officers in the state of Michigan. They each year award Police Officer of the Year awards to officers that have done outstanding things. Officers are submitted, they have a committee that reviews it, and they make their selections, and then those officers are honored at a convention, generally in Grand Rapids in May, during Police Memorial Month. In this particular case, I was nominated as Administrator of the Year by one of my co-workers, Lieutenant Mike Tackett. That's sent to the POA headquarters, where they receive more than one nomination. They review what's been submitted and do a little investigating of their own, and then they make their decision. And I didn't even know I had been nominated. I was thrilled when I received the letter. It is quite an honor because, you know, traditionally, police officers and chiefs are at loggerheads oftentimes. And to be selected by my coworkers to say, you know, we like the way you're running this place, I can't tell you how much that means to me.
Well, great. And you will then go to Grand Rapids, I assume, for the recognition?
Yes, May 23rd is when they present the Police Officer of the Year awards, and then they'll call up the chief and or a sheriff, but in this case the chief, and present the award. And there's usually a little bit of fun with that because, again, it's it's not something that I can say is at their top of the list of things to do. But I've tried to be a police administrator who treats people the way that I want to be treated, and I think that really has been the key to my success. But I'm so honored by this award. Of the awards I've received in my lifetime, this one goes at the top of the list.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, congratulations with that, and good luck with the budget process and all that is involved with it. And I'm sure we'll hear more about it during the broadcast of the council meetings. There are some workshops that are coming up that'll be at the police department's community room. I believe April 22nd is the next one.
That's correct. April 22nd at 5:30 p.m. The meeting is open to the public. The conversation can get boring sometimes, but it's a necessary conversation that has to take place. And then whether there will be any other budget workshop meetings will depend on how much we get through at this particular meeting.
And those are less formal settings than a regular council
They're
meeting.
very informal settings, and we encourage conversation and exchange of information, not to the detriment of the ability to conduct a meeting. We don't want people in the crowd shouting out things.
Sure.
But we do encourage them to ask questions if it's something they don't understand. If they have another idea on something, council is more than willing to listen to it.
Okay. Well, good luck with all of that.
Thank you.
All right. We'll have more Omni Edition Garden City right after you watch this.
So take these words and sing out loud, 'cause everyone is forgiven.
That's Omni Edition Garden City for this week. Thanks so much for watching. And our thanks to Bob Muery and Allyson Bettis for appearing on the program. Don't forget our next City Council meeting is April 15th. The meeting on April 22nd has been moved to the Police Department's community room, and that will be a budget workshop that will not be seen here on GCTV. Don't forget that compost has resumed. The Great Garden City Cleanup coming up on April 20th, and GCYAA Opening Day coming up on Saturday, May 4th. I never thought I'd say this. Make sure to like us on Facebook at City of Garden City, Michigan, and also at the city's website, www.gardencitymi.org. You can sign up for Nixle for those notifications, as well as find us on Facebook and, of course, our presence on YouTube with GCTV. My thanks to Christian Gibbons and Jason Merrill for helping to produce today's program. I'm Dan York. Thanks very much for watching, and good night, everybody.